Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the folks over at Greta, a great spot for all the games, home and away. We're going to be there for the viewing parties. The viewing parties, can't get enough of these viewing parties throughout the season. The first one is coming in just a few weeks. Not going to tell you when just yet, but it is coming in October, and I'm very excited for it. Just minutes from the arena, come by before and after the game, or whatever event you're downtown for. With weekly drink specials, Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street. Let the games begin. Speaking of these watch parties, I got to say, last time we were there, the balloon arch. Do you remember the balloon arch when we were there? That was phenomenal.
I do. It was amazing.
And the green, blue, and white balloon arch, that sounded really patriotic, but it was Canucks colors and it was awesome. The balloon arch, I couldn't get enough. The games over at Greta, the food, the drinks, Greta's got it all. We're going to be there later this month. Go check it out. Greta Bar YVR. All right, Harm, big day today. I'm David Quadrelli, as seen on TV. That's how I'm going to start introducing myself. Did you see? I sent you the picture. I got an advanced screening of the Amazon documentary, and I watched the Quinn Hughes episode, wrote about it over at Canucks Army with 8 observations. I'll maybe get into it in anyone else.
What did you put? Oh, I saw myself as one of the 8 observations. That would be
I thought about it, and I had it written down, but then I was like, okay, that's kind of dishonest to put it in the title. So technically there's 9 because that's one of them. Like in the article, it says I'm in the documentary. Like that was one of my observations.
That doesn't count. You're just in the background of the scrum, which happens how many times when they air the highlight?
I'm front and center. Did you see it or not?
Part of a scrum.
Did you see the picture?
Yeah.
I'm front and center. I actually,
you were hyping this up last time as like,
no,
I think they might have caught me. I was like, one-on-one with Elias Pettersson. I think they might have panned me there. No, you're just one of like 5-6 reporters in the scrum.
No, that's not how it is at all.
You're in the center, but that's just a coincidence.
No, that's it is just a coincidence. I didn't ask to be on, just to be clear. I wasn't asking the Amazon crew which camera was theirs, but I'm front and center. Like you'll see it when you watch, when you and the rest of the commoners watch it. You'll see me front and center right there. I'm standing right there, and I was front and center, and we can't pull it up yet, but Jacob's gonna get it tomorrow. I need an IMDb page.
That's the only
Jacob, get on that.
Watch it in advance too. I can guarantee is just to be like, was I in it?
No, I wrote about it too, but I was very curious if I was in it.
Have you come around and watching the rest of it besides the Quinn Hughes episode?
I haven't. I probably will, but I don't know. I'm not in a rush to do it.
Yeah, Blues Clues is number 1 on the priority list.
That's right. Number 1 on the priority list today, Family Feud. It's time to play the feud. Technical producer Jacob Azar, take us away.
I'm your man, Jacob Azar, and it's time for another episode of Canucks Conversation, Family Feud. All right, I see Quads has muted his mic, but I don't know if he can still hear us. He's got to take those headphones off, get his music cranked on his secondary headphones.
He might have just turned down the volume.
Yeah, I guess he might have. He might have, yeah. Now we can say mean things about him, right? Right, Harm?
Yeah, like him definitely not deserving an IMDb page and not
100%,
really being in that Amazon documentary.
All right. Well, he's definitely not listening to us, so I think we can get started, Harm. I'll remind you again of the rules. I'm going to ask you questions. Your time of 25 seconds, will start as soon as I finish reading the first question. Harman, are you ready?
Yeah. Do you have the timer up? Am I going to be able to see it?
Yes, it'll come up as soon as I start it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Harm, here we go. What will Jonathan Lekkerimäki's career high in goals be for a single season?
30.
Which goalie will play the most games for the Canucks this season?
Artur Shilovs.
Name an NHL goalie from the 90s.
Dominic Hasek.
Name a retired Canucks centerman.
Henrik Sedin.
Who will win the Hart Trophy this season?
Connor McDavid.
Okay. Made it just under the time. Get a hold of Quads. I'll tell you the score. It's a lot easier when we do this in studio because he can actually see us. But
sorry, how'd it go, Harm?
I was all right.
Oh, someone's putting answers in the chat. I don't know what they're answers to though, so I won't. I won't read the chat anymore.
Chat, no spoiling the answers.
Speaking of spoilers, I was sure to put at the top. I was like, if you want to watch this documentary, there are spoilers in this article because I wrote 8 observations. I'm gonna share a couple in anyone else because I thought about it a little. I'm just gonna share like the books that are
No
on
spoilers. I haven't.
It's not spoilers. It's hardly a spoiler.
No, I'm
It's
just
like
saying.
what
Just
books
make
reading.
sure. Yeah, that's fine.
What could I spoil? You know how the season ended.
Well, I mean, just in general, I've been trying to avoid Twitter and all these articles because I don't want to have already seen what some of the biggest surprises or best moments are.
All right.
I'll tell you, there's no surprises. There's really no surprises in the Hughes talk. Okay, anyways, yeah, let's go, Jacob.
I got some good news for you.
Mm.
Harman cleaned up once again, 148 points.
Okay,
Oh,
I
let's
can do it.
go.
I'll take
All
it
right,
home.
all right.
I'll take it home.
There is one key number one answer here. If you get that, you will only actually need 1 point through the other 4 questions.
All right.
So
Lock in.
it is all in, all up to you here. I'm going to remind you again of the rules. You'll have 30 seconds. Your timer will begin when I finish reading the first question. If you give one of Harman's answers, you're going to hear the buzzer, and I'll ask you to try again. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What will Jonathan Lekaramäki's career high in goals be for a single season?
30.
Try again.
25.
Which goalie will play the most games for the Canucks this season?
Thatcher Demko.
Name an NHL goalie from the 90s.
Kirk McLean.
Name a retired Canucks defenseman. Or sorry, centerman. Retired Canucks centerman.
Ryan Kessler.
Who will win the Hart Trophy this season?
Connor McDavid.
Try again.
Elias Pettersson.
All right. Well, the good news is I can tell you guys you definitely won because you got the big number.
Did Elias
one answer.
Pettersson take it? Did Elias Pettersson take
it was not. Elias Pettersson got you 0 points. But I will tally up your totals and we'll go through it here. But again, you guys won. Sorry, I completely forgot to get your scoreboard graphic done. But you guys are up to 3-0 now. So it's a very good start to the season. You can now check the chat. Quads, I can tell you right now, you did get outscored, but you got a few big answers, and you guys got to 259 points. So you guys killed it here.
Nice work.
I mean, the first question, Lekaramäki career high in goals. When I did the survey, I kind of gave some ranges for people, and I just slotted your answer into the range. So Harman said 30, Quads, you said 25. You guys actually kind of underreported what the public thought. 31 to 35 was the number one answer.
Right.
And then 36 to 40 was the number 2 answer. So a lot of people high on Jonathan Lekaramäki.
And you thought it was crazy that I said Elias Pettersson for the Hart.
Which goalie will play the most games for the Canucks this season? You guys got 1 and 2, Demko and Shelovs. Lankinen only 17 votes. I actually would have considered voting for Lankinen. Just, if he and Shelov split until Demko comes back, we don't know when Demko's coming back. It's very likely you could end up with 3 goalies all kind of playing around the same number of games. Name an NHL goalie from the 90s. You guys got the number 2 and number 3 answers in Kirk McLean and Hasek. Harman, you said Hasek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The number 1 answer is Patrick Waugh. So that's the one you guys missed on, but you guys still got 21 and 17 points respectively there. Name a retired Canucks centerman. Henrik Sedin and Ryan Kessler were the number 1 and 3 answers. Trevor Linden was the number 2 answer. Brendan Morrison, Manny Malhotra rounding out the top 5. And I guess just with Malhotra coaching in Abbotsford on top of people's minds, I guess. And then the Hart Trophy, we talked about this yesterday, obviously. If you haven't watched yesterday's episode, everyone, or listened, make sure when you finish with today, you go back and give it a listen. The guys gave their season predictions. McDavid, number 1 answer. McKinnon slotting in at number 2. Quinn Hughes was the number 3 response. 9 people saying Quinn Hughes, and his brother Jack just behind him with 8 to round out the top 4.
Right on. We got to win.
Oh, didn't even pick the right Canuck.
What's our record for the year, Jacob?
You guys are up to 3-0. So ever since I made these a little easier for you guys, you haven't lost yet.
No. No, we're just that much better now.
We're warmed up. We're warmed up. We just got used to the game. We didn't get it at first, but now we understand how to play. Jacob, is the next survey already out? Like, what are we looking at here?
Nope, but tomorrow. I'll have it in tomorrow's YouTube
Excellent.
and podcast descriptions. Make sure you guys check tomorrow. I'll make sure Quads reminds you all in that episode.
How could I forget? Tomorrow, I should say, Bag Milk joins us. Long-awaited return of Bag Milk from Oilers Nation. Of course, the Canucks play their final preseason game against the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow. And Harm, we're going to look at Canucks line combos today. Let's do that. Let's just get to that right now. Let's start looking. We saw these yesterday at practice, and now we kind of have an idea of what the Canucks are going to line up with in not only their final game, but also what you'd assume their opening night lineup would look like. Maybe the extra with Baines is a little different here because you'd assume Pia Suter is back by that time. He was listed as day-to-day by Rick Tocchet. So Aatu Ratu between Höglander and Garland is kind of the big one. Like, to me, Aatu Ratu's made this team. I've said it for a while now that I thought Ratu deserves to be on this team. Looks like he's going to center that third line with Nils Amon and Teddy Bluger both going down to the fourth line with Kiefer Sherwood. So let's just get into each line here, because this segment idea started as kind of let's give our ideal Canucks lines, which we've done in the past, but I don't really disagree with anything that I'm seeing here. If this is who you have right now with Suter not being healthy, and obviously Joshua not being healthy either, I like this lineup for the Canucks. I like what they have on defense, and I like what they have up front.
Yeah, I like these combos. I think it's the best construction that Tocchet could have come up with. And I think it's a lot more interesting rather than debate, could they have slotted this guy in this slot instead, to really break down, okay, what are the variables that we're going to be looking at as far as whether this line is actually going to be successful or not. And this is where, for example, if we start with the JT Miller line, the key difference there is Danton Heinen moving up. I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. First of all, just in person watching him starting at training camp, I didn't realize how much of a strength his wingspan is and how that could help him win pucks back on the forecheck, on the back check. I spoke about how he was just eating everybody's lunch in those 2-on-2 battle drills. I think quietly he could help that line control play down low. And I think he's also learned how to mesh better with high skill line mates. I had a conversation with him about the art of meshing with elite players. And he's learned a lot compared to his early days when he first would occasionally get bumps up the lineup. He's learned what it takes from a hockey sense perspective, decisiveness in terms of how how quickly you're making plays, the hockey IQ side of it. The other thing that I think flies a little bit under the radar is, so Heinen, of course, doesn't have big point totals on the surface, but that's largely because he doesn't really play power play at all. He's actually scored 5-on-5 points at a legit top 6 rate relative to his ice time over the last three seasons. Like, over the last 3 seasons, what would you guess the difference is between Brock Besser and Danton Heinen at 5-on-5 points?
I don't know, like 10 off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's 11. Like, Heinen has 85-on-5 points in 215 games, and Besser has 91 in 226 games. So Besser's actually played 11 extra games there. And the difference isn't that large. So that goes to show you, I think Heinen can have more offensive pop than what P.S. Suter showed there. And yet I also like the fact that if Ratu's able to stick at center, now you've got Suter as a plan B option, where if for whatever reason Heinen doesn't work on that top line, that's a hell of a plan B option to have, because P.S. Suter isn't a sexy option on paper. He's not a dynamic, flashy player. He's not ever really going to land on highlight reels, but that trio of Suter, Miller, and Besser, I was looking at the numbers, spent nearly 205 minutes together in the regular season. They controlled 66% of 5-on-5 scoring chances and outscored teams 16-4 at 5-on-5. Like, that's,
and a lot of those minutes were down the stretch too, like when the rest of the team was struggling. So that trio was really good down the stretch, and hell, even in the playoffs.
Lost arm?
Did we
I think
lose
we
Harm?
lost Arm. Oh, and then we're back. Yeah, I've noticed we have a few technical issues here in the back end. I'll look into it, but I think you guys should be good now.
Sorry,
I just
continue,
heard
Harm.
random music playing in the background, and I was like, is this my laptop playing it, or is this a technical difficulty? But Yeah, the point being is the Canucks are well positioned. If you've got a trio that performed that well, is a fallback option if Heinen doesn't work.
And again, when we talk about, if Heinen doesn't work, we also have to assume, okay, when Dakota Joshua comes back, he's going to have a spot in this lineup, you would assume. And that presumably would bump Niels Höglander off that Connor Garland line. And I know Höglander and Garland have been phenomenal together in the preseason. But again, Joshua and Garland together, they're like peanut butter and jelly. They're going to be together. So if Aatu Ratu sticks in that spot, now all of a sudden you've got another top 6 option in Niels Höglander. So I think that's very interesting to think about going forward.
For sure. And then with the second line, I think first, the most exciting possibility for me with that line combination is what can they cook off the rush? Because you've got Sprong's high-end finishing ability, which also I went back and watched the video of goals that he scored in Seattle, in Detroit. A large majority of those are off the rush. He's quick when it comes to, let's say the other team has possession in the offensive zone. His team regains possession of the puck. He's really quick at getting up the ice, being the first man to lead the rush. And when he's got time and space in transition, and we of course saw it in preseason when he torched the Flames as well, that's where he's really able to use his hands. He's able to use his shot. He's able to use his creativity to do a lot of damage. So when you combine that with also Jake DeBrusk's speed and his above average finishing ability as well, I think they could be really dangerous off the rush, which is one of the areas that the Canucks really want to improve on. I think the question for me, as far as can that line actually work, is are they going to be ferocious enough on the forecheck with Daniel Sprong as far as his play away from the puck? DeBrusk will help as far as adding speed, but I think a lot of times last season, I imagine part of the frustration that Rick Tocchet had with the Elias Pettersson line was they weren't often engaged enough on the forecheck. They weren't creating enough havoc, forcing the types of turnovers that can lead to quick strike offense. And I think that's what Sprong is going to have to do as far as his end of the bargain to make sure that line works, because it's why Andrei Kuzmenko ultimately didn't click, and why that line had moments where at 5-on-5 they waned a little bit.
Okay, let's pull up the rest of this lineup, Jacob. I just want to take a quick look here. And again, you bring up that DeBrusk, Pettersson, Sprong line. The top 6 looks pretty good. And the bottom 6, I'd say this is the best bottom 6 the Canucks have had, I'd say, in years. It's definitely better than what they started last year with. Harman's going to quickly rejoin for those watching the YouTube live show. But look, you look at this lineup, and it just comes down to the fact that it's better all around. And I know it looks like they took a step back on defense. And Jim Rutherford had the quote ahead of training camp that, yeah, our team is probably better, or excuse me, our team is probably as good as it was at this time last year, if not better. And the big difference is that they made trades in season, right? So you had the playoff run, and obviously you had Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov added to this team. I don't see the need for adding someone like an Elias Lindholm this year. When I look at this lineup, it just looks like, yeah, okay, you go make a Nikita Zadorov-like acquisition, or you go get that top 4 defenseman. Like, I'd say this team's probably a top 4 defenseman, whether left-handed or right-handed, away from being a truly great contending team.
Yeah, I still think that the Canucks would probably like to add a centerman, especially a right shot one, if they can, just because of what it allowed them to do from a matchup perspective in the playoffs, right? Because that's where they were able to go out and play Lindholm against the Draisaitl line, and then all of a sudden, in theory, it frees up Pettersson in the Nashville series. He was playing against the Colton Sissons line. In the Edmonton series, you saw a lot of Ryan McLeod, and the Canucks didn't actually get to capitalize on that because Pettersson struggled. But if you are able to find a right shot matchup center, that it doesn't have to be a Lindholm caliber player, because you're just going to end up paying too much. And I think a defenseman should be the top priority. But if you can find a guy that is going to be right-handed, really good on face-offs, help you on the PK, and can hold up well enough from a matchup perspective where you can use that Garland Joshua line to play tough defensive minutes, then you're freeing up Pettersson. And I think that idea would still be really attractive to Rick Tocchet and this management group.
And Keaton Chef brought it up in the chat. We talk about how great this forward group is right now. You still don't even have Joshua and Suter, and it's only going to get better. So this is what we're looking at right now as we head into the final game of the preseason on Friday against the Oilers and into the season. Harm, let's talk about this bottom 6. Let's talk about the Höglander, Ratu, Garland line. that line's been together since training camp. They are officially the line that has been together the longest from the start of training camp. We saw Denton Heinen, JT Miller, and Brock Besser together, but then that got split up, and obviously we haven't seen them in any preseason games, but we've seen a healthy dose of Nils Höglander, Ratu, and Connor Garland, and that trio, the results have been promising.
They have been. Now the challenge for Ratu is translating that preseason success to regular season, because preseason to me is not real NHL caliber hockey. There are countless examples of talented young prospects or players that dominated preseason and then couldn't quite make it work when the games actually counted. For example, I think about Marco Rossi. There was a year, I think, where he led the NHL in preseason scoring, and then he couldn't produce at all offensively when the games actually counted, and it took him that extra year of development before he finally broke out as a rookie last season with the Minnesota Wild. Matt Coronado was a player that had a really good preseason for the Flames last year. There were high expectations that, okay, could he slot in and be a full-time top-line player for them? And it didn't quite work. So for Ratu, it's, okay, you had a great preseason. How does that look now that all the top players on every team are in the lineup, and now that they're actually operating at full speed? Because let's be honest, players like Pedersen, Hughes, Miller, when we see them Friday, they're usually just going through the motions when it comes to preseason. It's more just finding your legs, finding your feet. The intensity ramps up significantly when the games actually start. So that's going to be the number one thing that you look for. And the other aspect that I'm going to be interested to track with this line is what types of minutes and matchups are they actually going to be trusted with? Because it's not just that Ratu's inexperienced in the NHL, but Höglander, as we know, can be up and down as far as how much defensive trust Rick Tocchet has in him. So could there be a scenario where that line gets sheltered a little bit and is used as kind of like an offensive sheltered bottom six line, especially because if Suter comes back and all of a sudden Suter's in that Oman spot and it's a Suter, Bluger, Sherwood as your fourth line, well, that's better than most NHL fourth lines. And I could see a scenario where, given how much Tocchet loves Bluger, loves Suter, and that Sherwood's a really good fourth liner too, it could end up being more of a relatively even load as far as the bottom six lines, the minutes and matchups that they get, rather than a distinguished, oh, this Ratu line is the third line and this Bluger line is the fourth line. I don't mind the idea of that, but the thing that you'd have to be careful of there is Connor Garland is one of your team's best 5-on-5 play drivers. You want to use him as much as possible at even strength, and I think there's some risk of, if you run into a scenario where you don't fully trust Höglander and Ratu from a defensive standpoint, start sheltering them, that you're maybe not maximizing the impact that Garland could have. So those are some of the details that I'm going to be looking at from a tactical and deployment standpoint. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, that's the biggest thing I'm thinking about when it comes to where's Dakota Joshua going to play when he gets back. If Dakota Joshua's playing with Connor Garland, it means that Connor Garland is probably going to get more ice time, and that's a good thing at 5-on-5 for this team. So it's something that I've been starting to consider, as well as what this team looks like when Dakota Joshua comes back. Anything else that you want to say about the line combos before we move on?
Yeah, I also think with that Garland line, they've found some success with it early on, but Garland is an unconventional player with how he attacks, right? We know that he's really slippery down low. He does his cutbacks. He's kind of crafty in how he tries to manufacture space. And I imagine he's the type of player that isn't you're not instantly going to build chemistry with. It can take time to learn and understand his tendencies as a player, because he just attacks in unpredictable angles and patterns. So with that in mind, Garland, one of his biggest strengths is when he's down low in the offensive zone, he's always looking for that pass into the slot where he's the one that has the puck. He's attracting attention down low, and the defenders are turned around and looking towards him, which can mean that they're not able to have their eyes on the inner slot area. And what Joshua does so well, and why they have so much good chemistry, is Joshua just finds those open pockets in and around the net. So for me, it's who on that line, as far as Ratu and Höglander, can find those open pockets that Garland can feed them, and then they can feast offensively that way.
All right. Do you want to get to this poll question and then move on to anyone else? All right, let's do it. Let's get to our poll question, which is about Robin Lehner for some reason. Robin Lehner today, his $5 million cap hit is going to be off the Vegas Golden Knights books but he's still going to be paid by the team. Our question was, do you agree with the NHL's handling of Robin Lehner's contract situation in Vegas? 95.1% of voters who went through the Luongo recapture penalty said no. And 4.9%, who we can only assume aren't Canucks fans, said, yes, I agree with the NHL's handling of Robin Lehner's contract situation in Vegas.
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on this because on the one hand, everyone knows that Lehner's playing career was pretty much over. The physical was just performative. And so I look at a team like the Montreal Canadiens who have Carey Price in a pretty similar situation. They still have his cap hit on the books. They have to work around it. Vegas now doesn't have to enter LTIR. They can recruit cap space, whereas the Habs have been forced to do gymnastics for a goaltender who's basically in the same situation. And so I can understand it being unfair from that perspective. And yet this situation's also complicated, and I don't know enough for me to just come down and say it's definitively wrong, because technically Vegas is within its legal rights to just terminate his contract based on him not showing up. And so we don't know the exact reason why Lehner didn't show up, but in that standard player contract, they're within their rights to do that. And so this resolution, if anything, kind of protects Lehner and ensures that he's still getting paid, because technically Lehner he's not entitled to anything at this point because he didn't show up for that physical. So this is a messy, complicated situation. And so while my first instinct is to compare Lehner's situation to Carey Price and say, look, wow, what another advantage for Vegas. I don't know enough about it behind the scenes to really come down with the hammer and say to blast the league, essentially.
Osnuck in the chat said, oh, good. So Alvin can now just wipe Pullman's number off the cap. Or no, that's not quite what he said. But yeah, he can just wipe Pullman's number off the cap. Like, come on. But I get it. I get what you're saying.
I agree, but Pullman showed up for his physical. So, like, Lehner didn't. Vegas is within their rights to just terminate the contract.
Can't you just tell the guy not to show up?
I don't think. Well, I really don't think that's
we're complicating
how it
things.
happened.
We're complicating things quite a bit. Okay, that was our poll question. Do you want to get to anyone else now?
Let's do it. By the way, before we start anyone else, I just have to tell you the moment where we had technical difficulties and there was this random like music that was playing in the background.
Yeah, did you figure that out?
Yeah. So I had Daily Faceoff open and had like the Rangers line combinations for some other article I'm working on nationally. And it was some video that would just like kept auto playing that had never started previously. So this is technically, I don't know how much authority you have over Daily Faceoff, but I am blaming you for this.
This is a Nation Network problem is what you're telling me. That's what I'm hearing. That's
yeah.
what I'm hearing. He says on the Nation Network show. My goodness, Harm. Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. The Seas thank fans for another great season at the Nat this summer. If you're looking to guarantee your seat for all the action in 2025, please visit CanadiansBaseball.com or call 604-872-5232. Okay, I've got a lot. I got a lot to get to. In anyone else, we've got a few people in the chat. Someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone brought up where'd it go? I gotta find it. He said that he saw me at the game the other day. I gotta find it.
He also saw you in the Amazon docuseries. Look at how popular you are these days.
As seen on TV. I don't know where the comment went, but he said he saw.
It was right up near the top. He might have actually been deleted from the chat for some reason.
That's why I'm confused. Yeah. But anyways, it was a good comment. He said that he saw me and my fiance walking at Rogers Arena, and he saw us almost get smoked by a car. I yelled at a guy driving. It was like an Uber driver or something. Damn. And the light went green, so everybody started walking. And as I so often do, I was leading the pack, and then this guy like guns it and turns, and I kid you not, it was very, very close. So I yelled at him as he made the turn, and then we kept walking. And this commenter said that they saw me. So I appreciate it. If I had gotten smoked, Canucks Convo listener would have been right there on the scene.
Witness. There you go. Protecting the community.
Right. That's right. Protecting the community. Okay. There's a few things in here. Let's get to this one from Brimpy Svingle in the chat. How many goals and assists does Lehner get in Abbotsford, and how many games and in how many games? So let's focus on the goals assists number for Lehner. Does it have to be a point per game performance from him?
No, let me pull up. Give me a second to pull up because I actually did a deep dive into first round picks who played in the AHL in their draft plus 3 season. Only looking at the ones that successfully became top 6 wingers as far as like, okay, what did they produce at the same age as Lehner in the American League, just to get a track record of like what would constitute a successful season. I've got it. Just give me like 30 seconds to pull it up.
Take your time. While you do that, I want to read these quotes from Rick Tocchet on Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. He said he's a sneaky guy. He's a talented kid. You look in the organization, you're looking for those type of guys, game changers. He also talked about what Lecker-Mackey kind of said he felt like he needed to improve on. This is from Tocchet. He said he could play a little inside more. He even said that to us today, that more 50-50 pucks, coming up with those, that's the next level for him. He might be back in 30 days or he might be back at the end of the year. I don't know, but we've got to make sure that he gets the proper development and proper coaching, and he's going to get that down there. Here's the thing. When I think about Lecker-Mackey and him going down to Abbotsford, it used to be, I don't want to use the term death sentence, but it used to be like oh boy, what now? We don't know what's going to happen. You're going to Utica. We don't know what's going to happen to you down there. But now Abbotsford has this track record of actually developing prospects. Like we saw Nils Höglander, who had played in the NHL and produced, and they went down and made him into more of a complete player. And now look at him. Like he's a guy that you're going to trust in your top 9. And the improvements he's made all over the ice are significant. So Abbotsford now has that track record of starting to actually develop guys. So a high-end skill guy as well, like Lecker-Mackey. He's going to go down there and he's going to work on his all-around game, get stronger on the puck, all that sort of stuff. And you would assume that he comes back to the NHL looking much better than before.
Yeah, so looking at these comps, I think at the low end, the bare minimum that you're kind of looking for him to ideally clear is the half a point per game mark. Anybody that fell below that mark, odds were stacked against them eventually becoming a top 6 NHL player. I don't think Lecker-Mackey is going to have much trouble with that. But the key takeaway is you don't need to hit the point per game mark or be that dominant, because here's a list of the players that were in that sort of like 0.8 to 0.95 points per game mark. Mikael Granlund, Dylan Guenther, Tyler Toffoli, Owen Tippett, Ricard Raquel, all fit that sort of bill. And so if you think about somewhere around the 0. Let's call it 6 to 0.85-ish point per game mark, that would mean a 50 to 70 point season prorated over 82 games. If he's operating at that type of clip, there's a good historical chance that he's going to develop into a top 6 NHL player.
I like that you have those numbers. Like I always find that really interesting when you can go back and compare it to those guys. Because that's the thing. If Lecker-Mackey became Tyler Toffoli, everybody would be very happy. And again, those are the kind of impact players that you need on their ELCs when you're a contending team. So I like that, Harm. I was just going to go off vibes, but you came in with the facts.
The point is he doesn't need to dominate. He just needs to be like a top 6 AHL player.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about who he's going to play with. And I know we're really getting ahead of ourselves talking Abbotsford line combos, but Aatu Ratu's going to be in the NHL. At Young Stars and in camp, it was Ratu, Baines, and it was Lecker-Mackey. And that line looked really good. Who's he going to play with now? Like, is it going to be Max Sasson? Organization really believes in him. I think it's going to be Max Sasson. Don't think Nils Aman's getting sent down, so probably not him. But I'm just starting to think about, like, okay, who's he going to play with? What's that going to look like when he's down there?
Yeah, I imagine Sasson would be a great fit because he adds that spark plug, max energy, responsible two-way element. Plus, he just drives the net, plays on the inside, which I think complements Lecker-Mackey's skill set offensively. I imagine also, now that PDG is down in Abbotsford, he's going to be playing a really big role. And so in PDG and Sasson, you're able to give Lecker-Mackey a couple of just high motor, speedy forecheckers, which I think helps round out the parts of Lecker-Mackey's game that he's not the best at. And the opposite is also true, where PDG and Sasson are good offensively at the AHL level, but they're not, for example, elite shooters. And I think Lecker-Mackey then is able to add an element to that line offensively that those other two don't have.
Don't forget Arshdeep Baines either, right? Like Arshdeep Baines
if he gets sent
playing
down,
on that line because, like I said, that was a good line. at Youngstars. Okay, this one from Brad from the YouTube chat. He said the D is not better than the start of last year. Neither forward or Desharnais can handle the puck. Ian Cole was better than either of them. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
But again, what I'm saying is they improved the forward group so much that I think as a whole, this team right now at this time, this time last year, I think this team is better than they were at this time last year. And now they have opportunities to go out and add people like they did last year. Now, the Thatcher Demko stuff really makes it a bit more hairy for me to definitively say, yes, on opening night, they will be a better team because obviously you're not going to have Thatcher Demko on opening night. So I'm curious how long they're without Thatcher Demko and how long Kevin Lankinen and Archer Shelovs can hold down the fort. But in terms of what they have in front of their goaltenders, I like what they've done. Like, I like that they improved the forward group as much as they did. I don't think there's going to be as many nights where there's just nothing going offensively, which we had a few nights like that last year, if you remember. And some nights it would be the Dakota Joshua line and Connor Garland coming to bail them out and they would start to play. But other than that, like there were many nights last year where that was your only good line.
Yeah, I'd say the forward group is meaningfully better compared to the start of last year. I'd say the blue line is definitely slightly worse. And then the goaltending, I mean, on paper, it is worse because of the uncertainty around Demko. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Demko was second in Vezina Trophy rankings, or finished second. Voting, yeah. My bad. Escaped me there. And now he's not here right now. So it does make it. That's how I'd kind of break it down.
Yeah, it's a hit. It's a hit. Nonetheless. Okay. A couple other things. Ray Ferraro, he's going to call 22 Canucks games this season. That got announced. Another thing that I wanted to point out, I wrote about it today. Yuri Patera, lost him yesterday. How it might affect the Canucks goaltending situation. Thought about this more. Again, talked to Dollywall. Said yesterday I was going to talk to Dollywall as well. And I really hope Ty Young gets a shot, but also the idea that a rookie coach in Manny Malhotra, who this organization handpicked, is going to get Nikita Tolopilo and Ty Young as his tandem. I find that a little hard to believe. Maybe to start the season, that's what you'll see, but I would be shocked if the Canucks don't go trade for an AHL guy. I was poking around the league. I'm going to throw one name out there. This isn't a report. This is just one guy I saw that was released from a PTO in Michael Hutchison, 34 years old. He's been around the league. He's an AHL. He's going to be an AHL veteran guy for you if you bring him in. So I'd be curious if they go out and sign Michael Hutchison, because I think among free agents, that's the only one that really stands out now because he was just released by the Devils a couple days ago. So that's the name that kind of stands out to me. Again, not a report, just putting the pieces together of the only available goaltending free agents out there. Kincaid signed, Dylan Ferguson signed with the Iowa Wild. So you're running out of options when it comes to signing. And do you want to give up an asset for a AHL goaltender? It might be like a 7th round pick, but still, do you want to do that? Kirill Kudryavtsev was a 7th round pick. Do you really want to do that? Probably not. So I wonder if it's Michael Hutchison. I wonder who else it could be. I just think the Canucks are going to go out and do something for their AHL goaltending. You can read more about it over at CanucksArmy.com. I wrote about it. Harm, any goaltending takes, or did you want me to get into the Amazon doc?
Let's get to the Amazon doc.
Okay, now, what do you call a spoiler? Like, you obviously haven't read the article.
Well, also, can I say that my expectations for the Hughes episode aren't as high. Ironically, I'm more excited to watch some of the other episodes. Like, I'm really excited to watch the Edmonton one.
Yeah.
Following McDavid in the Cup final. Just because also Hughes isn't the most interesting personality. Like, he's a cool dude. I enjoy talking to him. He's down to earth. And of course, because of the local element, I'm going to be intrigued to watch it, but I'm more excited to watch the other episodes, actually.
That's fair. I mean, like the Leafs one, you saw a clip today of the whole quote with William Nylander.
Don't spoil the whole quote.
I won't. Okay, you didn't see it. Good. You.
I'm trying to avoid them.
I saw you said that. Okay, this one. This is one observation. I'll just pull one. Okay. It was a fun watch. It was a fun watch. So this episode, it also followed Jacob Trouba and Gabe Landeskog as well. I only watched the Hughes parts. This is one thing that I found interesting. Hughes cut down his screen time last season, and then he just started reading a bunch of books. He said he probably read 20 to 25 books, and then they did the clip of Hughes' bookshelf. So I picked up some books. Like I looked at the shelf and I I'm going to name a couple books he's got. He's got Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. That one really stood out to me. I don't know if are you a big reader, Harm? Have we talked about this?
I'll read, yeah.
Okay.
Not as much as Quinn, but
no, not as much as Quinn. I don't think a lot of people like. Someone in the chat, tell me if you read books. How
that's
many?
At least a couple a month.
Yeah, like I read. I try to read. I don't read as much as I want to or used to, but like you can put me down for like 5 books a year, and I think that's like 5 more than a lot of people. I don't know if it's just people our age, but like a lot of people our age, I've found just don't read, especially dudes. Like I don't have many friends that read.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and I'm sort of in the similar range, like 5 to 7, 8 books a year type thing.
We're just so busy. Must be easy to play in the NHL. Okay, so some other books on the shelf. Cinema Speculation by Quentin Tarantino. That's a good one. Where Men Win Glory, The Odyssey of Pat Tillman. The Pat Tillman book, that's a wild one, by John Krakauer. Have you ever read or heard of that book?
Nope.
You gotta. It's an interesting one. How to Win the World Cup: Secrets and Insights from International Football's Top Managers by Chris Evans, and The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. Those were the ones that stood out to me that I wrote down that Quinn was reading. But he said, I felt at the start of the year that becoming the captain, it just got a lot for me, and like I just wanted to get off my phone, which was just hilarious to hear him say that. He was just like, I can't just be on my phone as much as I used to. So he also said, this isn't a spoiler. He just said, yeah, in Vancouver, hockey, like it's all hockey in Vancouver. And it's kind of tough because like the fans kind of know what's up. it was so funny how he said it. Like it was really good. So yeah, check that out. That drops tomorrow. It is called Face Off, Inside the NHL. It's the docuseries launching on Amazon Prime tomorrow. And folks, if you don't have Amazon Prime, not to do a free ad or anything, but you're gonna need it to watch some like 4 Canucks games this year. So might as well get it and watch the Quinn Hughes documentary. Yeah, I'm not gonna share anything else from the doc, but if you want to read it, it's right now. You can go read about it at CanucksArmy.com.
Sweet.
All right. Anything else that you wanted to get to, Harm?
Nope.
Excellent. Shorter episode today. We will be there. This was really good. Sorry, gotta get this one. Bugs Cheese reading a book. ... Attention span required. And then Nar said, "Do coloring books count?" That's good. That's really good. And Brad says he reads about a dozen a year. All right, a dozen is the number to beat among the YouTube live chat listeners. But yeah, your book recommendations, folks. That's what we want. Give us your book recommendations. For tomorrow's show. We'll see. We'll get into some book recommendations. But before that, I want to talk about baseball. Can you believe it, Harm? I want to talk about baseball. There is just one game tonight. There is one game, and it's between the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers. Jose Quintana on the bump for the Mets. They're the underdogs. I'm taking the Mets to win the series tonight at plus 110 odds. You can go get the New York Mets money line to take down the Milwaukee Brewers and advance to the NLDS. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. All right, these people asking for a Mariners bet, you got to stop. Don't rub it in. It's not cool. Not cool. Keep bringing up the Mariners. Keep betting on the Mariners. I'll find something.
Chat, keep it going for months, please.
We got to get a bet on like the free agent signing for the Mariners, or we need to find something for him to bet on like in the middle of December.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, K-Town Chef says he just read 1984. That's a good book. I would say this one. I'll say this one as well. It was recommended to me as a book to get you back into reading. It's called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, I think his name is.
Yeah.
You heard of that book? You read it?
Yeah. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it's a great book, and it's short. So like that was one that was recommended to me as like, hey, this will get you back into reading. Like it's shorter, but it's a really good and kind of intriguing story. It makes you think. It was a good one to kind of get me back into reading. I've been reading a lot of nonfiction lately, and when I say lately, I mean the one book that I've been reading for the past 5 months is a nonfiction book, and I just need to keep going at it. But anyways, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Bergelli. Thank you so much for listening to an episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.